Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. Yai da da Erev Tov, everyone. We will move into our Mariv service on page 137. If you want to grab a siddur on your way in, I invite you to do so. Vehu rachum mechaper avon velo yashchid, vehir ba lahashiva po, velo ya'ir kol hamato, Adonai Hoshia HaMelech ya'anenu v'yom koreinu. Please rise for Baruch Hu on page 137. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. You may be seated. Baruch et Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'roma v'yorim v'chokma v'teach sharim v'zeh. El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch et Adonai Hama'ari v'aravim. Bottom of page 137. Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael Amcha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadita Al kein Adonai Eloheinu B'shachveinu u'v'kumeinu Nasiach bechukecha V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha U'b'mitzvotecha Li'olam va'ed Ki heim chayenu v'yorech yameinu V'yorech yameinu Uvahem negeh yomam v'layla, yomam v'layla. Yavatachal tasir mimenu li'olamim, Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev amo Yisrael. Page 138. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha u'v'lechtecha v'derech u'v'shochbecha u'v'kumecha u'kshartam liot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha u'chtaftam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha. We continue silently. V'hayam shema tishma al mesotai asher navmas. Adonai Elohechem Emet Emet v'yamen hakol. U'malchuto baratzon kiblu aleihem, Moshe v'nei Yisrael cha'anu shira v'simcha rabba v'yamru chulam. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh, nora tehilot osei fele. Malchutecha ra'u v'necha bukeyam lifnei Moshe, ze'eli anu v'yamru. Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed, v'ne'emar kifad Adonai et Yaakov, v'galo miyad chazak mimenu, baruch atah Adonai, gal Yisrael. As we move into Hashkivenu on the top of page 140, I invite you to take a moment. If there is someone in your life, in our community, for whom you're praying for healing, as we say these words, Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, let us be able to send our prayers of peace and compassion and healing over all those who need it. And so if there's someone who you're thinking about in this moment, if you'd like to say their name aloud so that we too can hold them in our hearts, we invite you to do so. If you prefer to keep their names quietly, or if they prefer you to keep their names quietly, then just hold their names in your hearts. But if there's anyone who wishes to share a name, yeah, Glenn.
Joyce
Warren.
Joel Axler, Randy Axler, and Patrice Boucher. Robert Perry, Hazel Siegel.
Yitzhak Golda, Rick Zubo, Eileen Silver. Ufros aleinu sukat, sukat, shelomecha, ufros aleinu sukat, sukat, shelomecha. V'shmor tzeitenu v'oinu l'chayim l'shom mi'ata v'yad olam, baruch atah Adonai, shomer amo Yisrael ad. Page 141. Yikadav yikadash shemei rabba, v'yamad yirah kirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayachon v'yamechon v'chayetecho beit Yisrael, b'galav v'zman karev imru, amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevorach li'olam olamei omaya. Yiparach v'yishabach v'yipa'ar v'yirmam v'yinaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalav shemei dekudesha brichu la'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata damiram b'yalma v'imru amen. Our Amidah begins on page 142. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit as we move through our Amidah silently, all the way through to page 148. shalom bimromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Page 149. Yikadav yikadash meraba v'yamadi rakirute v'yamlif machute b'chayechon v'yamechon v'chayitocho be'Yisrael b'galav izman kari v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevarach li'olam u'lemei almaya Yiparak v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yverman v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudesha b'rechu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata damiram b'yalma v'imru amen. Tikabel tzotahon avotahon tochol Yisrael kodam avahon divishmai v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemai v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. We turn first to page 152 before we move into Aleinu for the counting of the Omer. And so we will say the blessing on page 152, and we will find today's day on page 155, 4 up from the bottom. We are just coming out of Lag BaOmer, the 33rd day of the Omer. We got to celebrate last night with our teens and with our Hay class with a Lag BaOmer bonfire outside in our fire pit. Thank you for the fire pit. Which was lovely, and now everyone smells a little bit like s'mores and fire, which is great. And so tonight we will move into the next one. So I invite you to join with me with the blessing on page 152. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat haomer. Hayom arba'a ushloshim yom shehem arba'a shavuot v'shisha yamim la'omer. Today is the 34th day of the Omer, which counts 4 weeks and 6 days of the Omer. And if you're following with the different sfirot that come each week and each day of the Omer and the way that those pair up. Today is Yesod Shebechesed, which is kind of the intersection of foundation within presence. And so we can be inspired by a piece from our Psalms, from Psalm 119, verse 34, which speaks to this, which says, "May I have the understanding to cherish the journey and care for it with all my heart." Being grounded and present is probably one of the most difficult things we can do on a regular basis to connect with ourselves and to find spirituality in our lives. And so we have these reminders in the counting of the Omer to continue to kind of notice where we are with those things, to work on, to honor the things that we're doing well, and to work on the ones that maybe still need a little practice. So we turn now to page 150, and I invite you to rise once again for Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol la'tet gedula liotzer breshit shelo asanu kegoyei ha'aratzot velo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama shelo sam chelkenu kahem v'goralenu kechol hamonam va'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim Lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo We turn now to page 151 for Mourner's Kaddish, and I'll invite those who are mourning to remain standing, and for those who are not, you may be seated. And as we move into the Mourner's Kaddish, if there are particular names that folks would like to share with us, of someone for whom you might be reciting Kaddish or observing a yard site, I invite you to do so. And we also, as we say these words tonight, we also send our condolences to Karen Salkin and her entire family. Her mother, Sue Einhorn, passed away and was laid to rest this morning. One of the funnier funerals I have probably attended in my day. It was, as expected, beautiful and loving and warm and quite hysterical. But they are having Zoom Shiva tonight, I believe, and Saturday night, and then Sunday night will be in person at Har Zion. So if you want to reach out to Karen, feel free, and we send her entire family our love and support. We recite Mourner's Kaddish, Kaddish Yatom, on page 151. Yitzgadal v'yitzkadash shemei rabbah v'alma divra kirutei v'amlich malchutei b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael ba'agala uv'yizman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam u'l'olmei olmaya Yit barach v'yish tabach v'yit pa'ar v'yit romam v'yit naseh v'yit hadar v'yit zaleh v'yit halal shemei d'kudasha brichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen Yehei shlomo rabba min shemaya V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who brings peace to us bring peace to all Israel and to all who dwell on earth. And we say together, amen. Who's up?
So while we collect prayer books and put them back, if anyone wants a glass of wine, feel free to help yourself. So there's red and white wine up on the table here in the front. Feel free to get up, grab a bottle for your table, or bring your glass, whatever works for you. Doesn't matter. Who's counting?
We have in the past called people in. You know, there's also people, there's people virtual, so we can all.
That's fine. No, it's, you know what I mean? Over. Go ahead. I'll see you in court, buddy. You know what I mean? That's. Hi, folks. Good evening. Good evening. Check one. Good evening, everybody. How's everyone doing? Welcome to the 2022 annual meeting. Thank you all for being here. Roni, thank you for leading Minyan. First order of business for the board meeting and for our board members here. Val distributed the minutes from last month's meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? By Nancy Center. Is there a second? From Matt Schwenderman. All those in favor, whether you're in person or virtually, raise your hand. Anyone opposed? Now's the time to speak. Nobody's opposed, so the minutes pass. Thank you very much. With that, I will hand the microphone back over to Rabbi Roni for Devar Torah.
Hello again. So the first Mishnah of Pirkei Avot opens by teaching, Moses received the Torah from Sinai and passed it over to Joshua, who gave it to the elders, who gave it over to the men of the great assembly. Each of us sitting here tonight is a link in this chain of tradition, passed down from one person, from one family, from one community leader to the next. And it's been this way for thousands of years. We're inheritors of a great, and in a text I was looking at with the confirmation students earlier, it referred to it as a magnificent tradition. And while Pirkei Avot refers to the passing down of Torah, it's also important to remember that Torah includes the 5 books of Moses contained in all of those Torah scrolls that we are blessed to have and are our own Kodesh, but that Torah is also so much more than that. There is a great book that I have in my office, which is a graphic novel of Pirkei Avot. Do you have this, Mark? You must have this. As a teacher, you must have this. It's written by Jessica Tamar Deutsch. Do you have it, Marla? Okay, good. So in this version of Pirkei Avot, which I gifted to all the teachers last year, it reminds us that Torah, in addition to those scrolls, also includes books written by rabbis and other Jewish leaders, those that we were blessed to learn from in the past and those that we also have in the present, and that Torah is also more than just books. It is a chain of beautiful tradition and ideas connecting people to each other and to the world. When we engage with Torah, all that we consider Torah, we are not only learning about our religion, about God, about ourselves, and about the world, but we're also connecting with all of the generations that came before us. We're honoring our elders and our teachers, and we're recognizing what they have taught us, and God willing, we will go on to become teachers, mentors, leaders, and elders for others. Rabbi Isaiah Ditrani, who was a 13th century Italian halakhic authority, he taught, "We are dwarfs, astride the shoulders of giants. We master their wisdom and move beyond it." This is not a comment on our size. All that we know, all that we have accomplished is only possible because of those who have come before us. Tonight we're here to honor our outgoing leaders, to climb onto their shoulders, we'll see what the air is like up there, and to celebrate as we pass the torch to the next cohort who will guide us through this next year. As we do so, I want to invite everyone here to look around the room and to notice a community leader with whom you have had the pleasure to work. Or maybe you're thinking about someone who wasn't able to be with us tonight in person. Appreciate what you have learned from them and allow this learning that you have shared and that you have taken in to take root inside you so that this learning might continue to guide you as you step into a new leadership role or as you step out of one. Don't get too excited about that. God willing, this learning will not only serve you in board meetings or in committee meetings, but will also help to guide you through the rest of your life with the knowledge that you gained from this position. Later tonight, perhaps you might even take a moment to express this gratitude that you're feeling for them, maybe in a conversation, in an email, maybe even a handwritten note, remember those, I am well aware that our leaders are often the recipients of a whole lot of kvetching, but sometimes the gratitude and the recognition of what we have learned from them unfortunately goes unsaid. So taking a moment to express that as well is so appreciated. At the same time, we know that these last few years have been difficult. From the challenges of navigating a spiritual and religious community through a global pandemic, and then on top of that, steering our entire community through a rabbinic transition, the seas have been rough at times, but tonight we thank you all. Thank you for all of the extra meetings and decisions that were necessary over these last few years. Thank you for not only seeing the challenges over the past few years, but also seeing the opportunities. Thank you for always holding our values and ideals at the center of every conversation in order to ensure that we continue to be a welcoming, Hamish, inclusive community to all those who choose to call BTBJ home. And thank you for helping us all to pass down these same values and ideals to our children. As I look back on these past few years, I'm grateful that we have not only weathered the storm, but that we continue to approach each moment with appreciation for those who came before us and with joy and wonder for all the possibilities that lie ahead. Okay, you're up.
Yasher Koach, Rabbi Roney, appreciate your kind words and the gratitude for everyone here, for those that aren't here, and for the years that we've had over the past years during my term. You'll notice on the table you should have a printout of committee reports. For those that aren't at our regular meetings, of course, we share committee reports every month. Sometimes we share them orally, sometimes we submit them via email in order to help with the agenda. Today, they're printed out, they're on the table. Please take some time, while you're here tonight to read up on all the incredible work that our committees and affiliates have done over the past year and some of the ideas and plans for the year ahead. And with that, I will turn it back over to Rabbi Roney. You should just move your chair up here. After this, you're going to have a break for a while. After this, yeah, we'll give you a break. So I'm inviting you up for kind of follow up on the past year or so congregational learning, religious school, and the synagogue in general. Thank you.
Well, there is a great congregational learning report in that booklet, and so I invite you to look there to look back on all that we did this year. With much thanks to our chairs, Marla and Sarah, for leading the ship, and to the rest of the committee as well. And if there are ideas that you have for the future, I will just say we're collecting those as well. So let us know as we think about next year, since we've already started our planning for that. There's also a great report from our religious school parent support group, who I am indebted to for all of the great things that you do to help keep things flowing, and especially over the last few weeks as people have been unexpectedly out in different ways. Thank you for helping to find folks fill in. Mostly big thanks to Josh Gale, who just keeps jumping in to fill in. But thank you to all of those who have kind of helped to keep things running smoothly at pickup or drop off and with snacks and all of those little things. It has been quite a year. So as I said, last night was the last night of Kesher Teens with a lovely picnic and fire pit, and I am also sad to say that after 3 years of working at BTBJ, we said farewell to Tara Chirwani, who has been with us in teens, but she has thankfully gotten a very busy full-time job and does not have time for religious school in the same way, but she hopes to be able to stay connected and find ways to continue to be with BTBJ, and we hope to be able to take her up on that in the future, or some guest teaching with teens or something else. Some of you were also with us this past Sunday when we celebrated our closing of our Better Together program this year. Some of our Almudim are in the room, which is an opportunity for our Dalit students to get together with some of the adult members of our community, thanks to a grant that we received from the Legacy Heritage Foundation. And we were joined by a lot of the parents of our Dalit students as well. And we had a lovely time davening together in the sanctuary, in part led by our Dalit students, enjoying a gorgeous brunch in here, and also watching our year-end video, which was a lot of fun. And we also shared the news at the service that our winner for this year of our BTBJ Better Together essay contest is Talia Wine. So our essays are read by three readers, and all of the essays are anonymous. Thank you to Mark Levy, who has been one of our readers for the past, but they're all anonymous, so you don't know who won. It was Talia. So this year our readers were Mark Levy, Liz O'Flanagan, and Debbie Bloom. And Talia wins, as a result of this prize, a gift to be used within the next 3 years, which is either it needs to be used toward an Israel trip or a Jewish camp kind of experience. The maximum amount is $8,000, but it cannot be more than half of the cost of the program. So if camp costs $5,000, then she can get $2,500, for example. So I've been talking to her parents about that since she does attend Jewish summer camp, and it was a really beautiful essay. I'll have to tell you which one it was. And this Sunday is our last day of religious school. But it has been a long year, but I continue to just be astounded by the resilience of our students. They just come barreling in on Sunday mornings, so excited to be here, COVID or no COVID, masks or no masks, whatever we seem to throw at them, they are just happy to be here. And they just, whether they're showing up in person or online, it is just so wonderful to both see and to hear from them how much they appreciate coming together in community. So I'm thrilled that we've been able to provide them with more of an opportunity to do that this year than we were able to last year, both in the classroom and in all school programming. And God willing, 222, we'll see if we can at least keep it up, if not do more next year. But it has been a joy to see them all grow in different ways and to see them, so many of them in person this year. Many of you who are parents saw that we sent a survey to our religious school parents as we were coming to the end of the year, just to say, how's it going? How's it been? An opportunity to let us know what's been awesome, what hasn't been awesome in school in general and in their classes in particular. Also with a question of what are they thinking about for next year? We know what we're thinking about for next year, but the question of do we continue with this new schedule of in-person on Sundays and online during the week, or do we go back to in-person during the week is a question. So we've been gathering information from families of what they're hoping for. So if you are a religious school family and you haven't filled that out yet, please take a minute to do that. If you know other religious school families, nudge them and ask them to do that, because the more information we get, the easier it will be for us to plan something that actually makes sense for our community. What am I missing? So we held an open house at the beginning of May, which was a great way to kind of spark conversations with prospective families. And I have been talking to a bunch of them who are thinking about joining our religious school in our community, which is great. So looking forward to seeing where all those conversations go. And registration will open hopefully in the next few weeks as Shul Cloud is all ironed out, and we're hoping to kind of do our registration through that new portal as we introduce that to our members. We are also hard at work creating a job description. Thank you to those of you who are helping with this for a new ed director who can help lead us into the future. And I look forward to supervising this person as we move forward and slowly handing off day-to-day responsibilities to them. But seeing sort of where we can go with all of that and hopefully get that in place very, very soon. I've also begun having year-end meetings with teachers to hear their reflections on the year. What was awesome? What wasn't? What support did they get that was appreciated? What might they need in the future? And also just hearing from them their intentions for whether they hope to come back next year, and so that we can talk about what positions we have. And I've also begun to interview some potential teachers, thinking about some of the possible openings that we might have. I am also very sad to share that Mindy Davidoff let me know this week that she will wrap up her work as administrative assistant for youth and education in the middle of June before she heads off to Green Lane. And Mindy, I know you're watching, and I hope you know how much I have enjoyed working with you over these last however many years. We think it's 4 years. It feels like forever, especially with everything that we've all been through. And I know I am really going to miss, and I'm sure all of our families are really going to miss, her warmth and her humor, her lists. She has a lot of lists. And just the way that she kind of made all of us better at our jobs. She could anticipate what was coming. She knew what to do. She reached out to all of you and made all of it just kind of happen with ease. So please know how much you are going to be missed. But she'll be around, which is great. So I wish her the best of luck in whatever she chooses to do next. And these are some other big shoes that we'll be filling as we move forward. And then just a huge thank you to all of our teachers and to our madrichim, our teen aides, our office and maintenance staff, Cantor Benjamin and Val, our coordinator for curriculum support, Suzanne Castor, who's also one of our teachers. We couldn't do any of this without all of you. Thank you to our parents also for all of your schlepping and communicating and help with homework. And of course to our religious school committee and parent support group. But really without every faculty member and every staff member and every volunteer that we have had come through our doors, whether it's for just like a quick drop off of a supply or answering the phones or sending an email, we couldn't do what we do. So thank you for everything and hoping for more success in the future. And if you have feedback from this year, make sure you let us know. Questions? Okay.
I echo Rabbi Roni's sentiments about Mindy. She is a treasure, and I'm going to miss working with her so much. So first off, back to my regularly written stuff. Mazel tov to all the B'nai Mitzvah families. It has been a joy to join you along this journey and to be the Judaic Sherpa to your children. Thank you to everyone who read Torah this year. Once, twice, a few times. Thank you everyone for doing that and for also reading Megillah. We wouldn't be able to do this without your participation. I also want to formally thank my counterpart for the last couple years, Tara, for helping with the teens program and helping to plan the curriculum and bringing guest speakers in. She was a joy to work with and was a true partner in the work that we do to continue to engage our students Judaically post-B'nai Mitzvah. I also want to thank the parents who attended my Jewish walking tour. 1, 2, 3, 4. Were there others in the room? No, the 4 of you. Thank you all for doing that. I know we got caught in what felt like a 20-minute wind tunnel water ride at Disney, but it was great to know that all my hours spent walking and wandering through Philadelphia during the pandemic with my dog would be put to good use. I would also like to thank everyone here for your generosity for our on the occasion of our wedding, my wedding with Becca. Your gifts were incredibly meaningful, and thank you all so much. I also want to thank everybody for the carte blanche that I was given for my ufruf to do whatever the heck I wanted, and for allowing me to experiment musically on the bima with some family and some friends. Finally, there is one person who is not here tonight, who is an outgoing person that I need to formally thank, and that person is Aaron Sewell. For the last, I don't know how I would have gotten through the last 2 years without Aaron. He was the person who helped me plan Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur in 2020 and understood the different kind of detailed work that would go into the planning for these services that flipped from being live to pre-recorded back to live. It took someone who appreciated attention to detail and who knew that all those little things mattered, and for also being on hand to help pre-record those Torah readings, and to have the breadth of Jewish knowledge to help me decide what to tweak, cut, edit, shift, move around within that service so that we could get something that's usually 4 hours and 15 minutes down to 2 hours and 10. And of course, I want to thank him for also being our in-house security that year. And also thank for the everything he did last summer, again with the cutting, tweaking, editing, shifting around to make the 2 hours work again for the hybrid version of what we did for and having 2 services to try and figure out. If you know me well at all, you will know that one of my areas of history that I am pretty big fan of is the Apollo space missions, and that one of my favorite movies of all time is Apollo 13. In that film, on the mission to the moon, there is an explosion in oxygen tank 2 of the service module, which left Jim Lovell, Fred Hayes, and Jack Swigert marooned in space, and they had to use the tiny 2-person helicopter-like contraption, the Lunar Excursion Module, the LEM, to get back to Earth safely. For the last 2 years, you could say that Zoom has been BTBJ's ritual LEM, our emergency lifeboat that has helped us keep our ritual life afloat. Aaron, for a lot of the 2 years, especially in the spring and then the fall of 2020, I feel like you and I were co-piloting this LEM when we were forced to pivot to our virtual sanctuary. As Gene Kranz said in the movie when he was played by Ed Harris, I don't care what it was designed to do, I care about what it can do. You and I, through much trial and error, figured out what Zoom could do for us without worrying what it was designed to do. Thank you for all your help as my co-host, for so many of the services over the last few years, and for learning the intricacies of this crazy technology we had to use. It was always a relief when I saw Aaron log into Minyan or a service, because I knew I could just make him the co-host and know that everything would be taken care of, because it's really hard to find that one screen that's not on mute while trying to read a Haftorah or sing the right word in Hebrew. And in the spring of 2020, cue the bar and bat mitzvah family as to when they needed to be ready to do what was next. So I wanted to make sure that everybody knew how much Aaron really did for me and for this community over the last 2 years. I look forward to a fruitful and great relationship with Matt Hoffman as he takes the reins of Ritual, but I couldn't let tonight go without publicly thanking Aaron. So those are my remarks for this year, and thank you all so much.
So you all know that this has been a very challenging year in so many ways. We were finally able to open our doors and bring everyone safely back into the building at their own comfort level. People would walk in and say, I haven't been here for 2 years. And it was like they were in awe because they were walking into a place that was home, but they hadn't been home for 2 years. It's like being away at college and then coming back. It was really gratifying to see. Am I short? We began holding services, classes, meetings, special events. Our congregants were thrilled to be in Shul again. And then, of course, through the magic of Zoom and live streaming, just like tonight, Peter is doing this remotely. We have live streaming tonight. And people who are uncomfortable coming back, we still have a way to to bring them home to BTBJ. I want to thank the extraordinary efforts, I'm not going to name everyone, the staff, volunteers, lay leaders, and then it's that president. Michael, thank you so much for helping us through these 2 years, which was a very challenging time. So I just want to thank you. Our clergy, our ritual committee led by Aaron, our congregational learning led by Sarah and Marla, provided us with the opportunity to pray, learn, and enjoy each other's company with inspiring services and wonderful classes. Our affiliates, led by Michael Sierman and Wendy Kurtz, gave us fun-filled experiences, sometimes virtual, sometimes in person, but at least everyone could feel that even through COVID, we could be part of our community. We celebrated with B'nai Mitzvah families, and now we're going to enjoy confirmation in a few weeks. And Roni just said, oh, I love those 2 confirmants. They were so much fun. And I hope that you all tune in for our confirmation service on June the 4th. Or, I don't know, one of those dates. And then we had that fabulous gala. Is Brett here? Hi, Brett. Thank you so much for bringing that fabulous gala, those amazing Jews of Broadway. Now, Annette can't be here tonight. Why? She's in Spain. Can you imagine? But I just want, if Annette, you're listening, thank you very much. And for people who couldn't come in person, we were on YouTube. Can you imagine BTBJ on YouTube? We finally came into this century with technology. Oh, speaking of technology, now you won't believe this, but starting June 1st, you will be able to go on the website and you will be able to go into your own personal portal and you can see all your information and correct all the mistakes that we have in there. And you can even pay your bill online. Can you imagine? We're only about 30 years late with this. I need to thank Lisa and Matt for doing all the diligent work behind the scenes because I was procrastinating. And finally, Lisa said, enough, right, Lisa? And we're going to roll this out. Well, she's going to roll it out. I'm just going to go along for the ride. So we've witnessed many synchronous years, births, weddings, b'nai mitzvahs, and graduations. But I also want to pay tribute to the 16 members of our congregation who have lost loved ones during the year, including the loss of some of our members, Herb Gallup, Dave Ingber, Eileen Stern, and Bennett Fishbein. Most recently, Sue, who we buried today, who was a member for many years. I will mention to you that tomorrow is the funeral of Ricky Gordon, and her 3 children are Mark and Kenny and Stuart, and Mark's wife is Kathy, who works in the office. Kenny and Beth were members for many years, and Stuart and Donna came here occasionally. But if you have a chance to send your condolences to Kathy and to Kenny and Beth, I'm sure they certainly will appreciate it. Finally, we said goodbye to Rabbi Greif, our spiritual leader for 23 years. And we're saying hello to our new spiritual leaders, Benjamin and Rabbi Roni. I can tell you it's like a little renaissance. This is my personal feeling. We're entering a new and exciting era filled with energy and hope for the future. And with all of your support, we will survive. Here's to BTBJ.
adjust this. Michael puts me on after Val. It's like putting Eeyore on after Tigger. So we weren't supposed to laugh that hard, Alana. So I'm supposed to give the financial update. So I think that a couple messages I'd like to give is it's been a very hard year for kind of everybody. The last 2.5 years, and financially, we've faced a lot of really tough challenges as a group. And finance doesn't usually thank people, but I want to thank everybody who's in the room and on the screen, but more importantly, the members who stayed with us when it was hard to stay with us, the parents who continued to send their children to our preschool, which for those of you who are not aware, the preschool funds a lot of what we can do. It is not just financially, but also is kind of the feeder of the next generation that's going to keep us going. So we do owe a debt of gratitude to Marcy and all the teachers and the maintenance staff, everybody who kept the Schul's preschool up and running when nobody else wanted to come into the building. And also allowed the kids to come here so the parents could go back to work. So that is a big deal. We ended last year with about a $90,000 operating deficit. And so we entered this year knowing that we were going to have greater operations and expenses, but really couldn't understand what our revenues were going to be. And so we budgeted for a $180,000 operating loss. Now, how do you budget for that? We had gotten a PPP2 grant, which we knew would cover it from a cash flow position, and thanks to Steve and Val for the hard work on that. Happy to say that we had 6 or 7 more families sign up for the ECC than we expected, and also were able to run some additional programs, and so that operating deficit projecting right now is going to be about $65,000 instead of $120,000. We will also be bridging that gap. Benjamin used a movie analogy. My favorite movie is Hoosiers. If I'm the old crotchety Norm Dale, Valerie is Jimmy Chitwood. And every time I turn around, she's found another grant. That does not surprise me. Steve is stepping down as treasurer, and Shelley is stepping in, and they're going to have a hard time keeping up with all the grant funds because I give up. But that is going to cover us, and between the PPP and the grants that Val and team have found over the last 2 years, I'm happy to say we're in a very strong cash position. We are not out of the woods. We have rising costs. We have inflation, we have rising labor costs we have to deal with, and we have a kind of steady membership. I do believe, like Val, that we have a renaissance and we have a chance to infuse another wave of folks, but we have to all kind of do our part to generate that and bring that number back up. As far as FY23, we'll also have to deal with a couple major repairs, the patio out there, and some others. I'm sure Val will find money hidden under a rock somewhere to pay for them. We're working through the budget now. We'll be presenting that to the board next month, hopefully for approval. And I don't know, Steve, if you want me to steal your thunder, I'll let you give the best news of the night around our mortgage.
Well, we're very happy and proud to say that we are paying off the mortgage after all these years. The balance is down to about $16,000 and change, and we've got a dedicated account to fund that, and we figured rather than, it comes up for renewal every 5 years, rather than renewing it and paying the fees and the interest for the rest of the term, might as well just save that extra $1,500, pay it off, and say goodbye to that debt. So it's great news.
2 other things in addition to Val has thanked Brett and Annette. I want to thank them as well. I also want to thank Michael and the rest of the Finance Committee for everything that they've done this year, the last couple of years. And also to just recognize that through everybody's commitments and donations and contributions, we've also been able to support through our special arrangement program the continuation of a number of member households. On average, we have about 20 households a year that are supported, and I just think that the ability to do that as a community is really important. And so, thanks. If anyone has any questions, happy to. Otherwise, I think I kept it to 5 minutes. Okay.
So a couple follow-ups. First, for those that are streaming and may not have heard Steve's announcement, I'll just reiterate it, that we have paid off the mortgage. So you can celebrate at home with a drink. Second of all, Matt, I was worried about the Hoosiers analogy. I was hoping that I wasn't going to be Dennis Hopper's character, so I'm glad that that's not what happened there. You're strapped. I thought you did well. That's right. That sounds about right. But before I get started, want to, of course, thank my family for being here. Mindy, who has, been through the last 2 years, with me every day. Ian and Sherry, so nice to be able to share the synagogue experience together with our families, with our kids. And of course, Mom, to have you here as well, so special. Mom, you're here so much, they might send you a bill. I mean, you were just here a couple weeks ago, you're here again, you got to be careful, all right? So check your bank account. What an incredible 2 years it has been. As a public service addict, a friend of mine described me as that once, a public service addict. But in volunteer roles like this, we depend a lot on consistency. When you have new leadership in place every year or two, it's really important to have a consistent plan, right? Whether it's your local government or a little league or a synagogue like ours, to have a schedule or plan each year that is relatively consistent is really helpful. For example, how do we run high holiday services? What's the religious school schedule? What does B'nai Mitzvah tutoring look like? What do B'nai Mitzvahs look like? Again, when you have new leaders every couple years, it's helpful to have this consistent pace, this consistent pattern that's organized around the high holidays, Jewish holidays, religious school, and B'nai Mitzvahs, to help organize the calendar with staff, with the employees, and with the lay leaders. Then, of course, 2 months before I became president, the COVID pandemic began, and we entered uncharted waters. The closing of our building, the ending of all synagogue activities in the short term certainly changed that sense of consistency that we leaned on. I was reviewing my BTBJ file the other day, part business, clearing out, to-do lists, and part was speech preparation. And at the top of my list, this was before my presidency began, at the top of my list, and I quote, it said, streamline the calendar. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. And of course, not what I meant, right? We've talked for years about quality over quantity and how we can find symmetries between affiliates and member groups. And while this was different than I could ever have imagined, the journey leading our team, through these last couple of years and through the pandemic specifically, it was challenging. It was interesting, but it was also inspiring. To have such a wonderful team learning about public health and contagious diseases and mitigation, isolation guidelines, just an incredible group of staff, of employees, of lay leaders and volunteers doing our best to come together to support each other and to support BTBJ. It was a very, very long 2 years. In fact, my mom had asked me before we started, how long were you president? Was it 5 years or was it 6 years? It felt like 10, but it was 2. But here we are today, back at BTBJ, where we belong. So first I want to thank, with respect to that first year of my presidency and overcoming the COVID pandemic, I certainly want to thank Alana Dunoff and Rich Gersh. Rich is at home watching, he's not feeling well. They led the Back to BTBJ task force. There's so many important members of so many committees, I can't possibly name everybody, but we had an excellent group of people who were open and honest, who were patient, and thoughtful as we tried to work through really unprecedented times to figure out how to best handle these circumstances. Second, to echo Matt's sentiments, he took this spot for me. I want to thank Marcy and the ECC teachers for showing up to work in what is no doubt the most challenging circumstances you can ever imagine as a preschool teacher. We closed the preschool for about 4 months, from March to July of 2020, but since then have been open without any significant delays or closures whatsoever. I think that's because of the excellent work by the COVID task force in preparing for it. I think it goes to our staff here in the building for conducting business appropriately, and of course, thank you to our families for being thoughtful in how they conducted their personal lives and when they sent their kids or didn't send their kids here into the building. And last, I want to thank Matt and Steve and the finance team for, again, incredible work in unforeseen circumstances, securing multiple rounds of PPP loans and balancing the books the best we could during really challenging times. Despite all the challenges we faced, we had plenty of wonderful events. You see many of them listed in the pamphlet on your table. We had events virtually, we had events in the parking lot, there were events at Cisco Park and elsewhere. We did our best to engage with our members and with our congregants and provide them a connection to our special community here at BTBJ. And I thank all of you as well, our board, for helping make that happen. So then in the summer of 2021, just as COVID seemed to be somewhat under control, so to speak, and our COVID concerns were slightly lifting, we began our search for a new rabbi. Rabbi Greif served our community for 23 years, and he blessed so many of our members and their families during significant life cycle events, the good and the bad, the happy and the sad. He was there for so many of our members over that time, and we appreciate that. Transitions of leadership are always difficult, no matter what the circumstances are, but it also brings opportunities to grow, to develop, to be introspective about who we are and who we want to be. I want to thank Rich Gersh for leading an incredible search committee who really spent so much time working through the process. You know, Rich and I are devoted basketball fans. We have trusted the process with the Sixers for many years. We may be giving up on that. But I know that this search committee really worked through the process, following USCJ guidelines, reviewing dozens of resumes and interviews, pre-interview prep sessions, post-interview recaps, updating Google Docs, checking references and resumes, you name it. During the process, the search committee learned something really important, that the search for a new rabbi is just not another business task for the synagogue. It's not just checking a box like, oh, we have to find a rabbi, this is next. Mirroring the significance of a rabbi's presence and role at the synagogue, the search process is a path to make God's presence felt in the lives of our membership. Pretty intimidating stuff, but also very inspiring, and I appreciate their hard work. We had candidates from California and Canada, Australia and Florida, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, just to name a few. In the end, it was clear that Rabbi Handler was a choice for us. She had the background, the education, and the experience. But just as important, she understands our culture and our community. She understands that our culture, our small but mighty shul, is successful because we represent something slightly different than larger, shall I say, more mainstream synagogues. We embrace our uniqueness and our independence, our small community culture that she has been a part of for many years with her family. We are so fortunate to have you as our spiritual leader moving forward, and we look forward to watching our synagogue continue to grow under your leadership. I also want to take a moment to recognize Kenner Benjamin. Kenner Benjamin came to us about 5 years ago. He was young and he was raw, and he was looking for his next career step. And since then, Benjamin, you have grown in so many incredible ways. On the pulpit with your beautiful melodies and gorgeous voice, but also as a B'nai Mitzvah tutor, as I saw directly with Brandon, and as well as a religious school educator and a teacher. In addition, over the past 2 years, you got engaged and married, so mazel tov. And congratulations, and we are fortunate to have you as well as part of this team moving forward. As president of the board, I always felt like it was my duty to help the organization. It wasn't about what I wanted to happen. What was best for BTBJ? What would make BTBJ stronger in 20 years, or 30 years, or 40 years? I hope we can remain the warm and caring and Hamisher community that we've always been, focusing on Jewish values and sharing them from generation to generation. I'm so excited to be part of this process, and I know that this clergy team is prepared to lead us into the future, and a bright and successful one. As I reflect on the past 2 years, I am honored and humbled to be able to serve this community as a leader and as president of the board. The experience, of course, was nothing like I had imagined, and I hope no other president ever has to experience anything like it. But it was still rewarding to support this community. I believe that synagogue membership and supporting the physical structures of synagogues like ours that exist in the community on Paper Mill Road, thousands of people drive by every day, millions of people drive by I feel the same way about Orme on Ridge Pike. It's important for the community to see that we are here, that we exist, and that we are members of this community. Before finishing, I want to thank a few more people. First, Nancy Center and Marla Sones, my trusted advisors, friends, confidants, care about BTBJ as much as anybody I've ever talked to, and have helped us through some of the most difficult times over the past 2 years and even 10 years since I've joined the board. You've been there for me the entire time, and I could not have accomplished anything without you. Next, Alana, I'm so honored and excited to be handing the board over to you. I apologize if there's a long to-do list, but it was COVID. Sorry. We were on the Bema together just a few weeks ago for Sophia's bat mitzvah. So we've celebrated so many life cycle events. And the sharing and the transition of this board leadership is one other life event that we are sharing together. You're always prepared and focused on the task at hand. You're open to hearing from all sides, and you're willing to make a firm decision. Those are the attributes of a great leader, and you will be a great president. Last, and certainly not least, as everyone knows, is Val. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I could keep going with the thank yous. If not for you, I'm not sure where I would be, let alone where we would be. There are so many amazing people who keep BTBJ running every day. I've named some of them. Many of you are here. I'm sure I forgot some people, and I apologize. But you are beyond compare. I want to note that very early on in the pandemic, it might have still been March of 2020, perhaps early April, when we started figuring out how are we going to connect with our congregants? How are we going to share the ritual experience with people? Val immediately understood our need for advanced information technology equipment. And she released funds from the Bill Hurwitz Memorial Fund in honor of her late and wonderful husband to help share this Minyan and services and events with our congregants. Your vision and your thoughtfulness for BTBJ are unparalleled. Thank you for everything you do, and we are lucky to have you. So lastly, I thank you all for your support and your kindness over the past 2 years, and I look forward and hope you will join us on the next steps of BTBJ's future. Thank you. Sit down.
Once again, I'm opening my big mouth. As always, it shouldn't be a different day. Okay, now my little speech, sorry. Michael, I'm not sure that you knew what you signed up for when you agreed to be president of BTBJ. About 4 years ago, actually, that you agreed. Not started, but agreed. Who knew you would be running almost all of your meetings virtually, working with the COVID task force to determine what should be open, closed, masked, unmasked, and to top it off, looking for a new lead rabbi. We could not have asked for a president that was more committed to BTBJ and put relentless hours into making sure BTBJ was able to continue to serve our congregation and our ECC families. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I will miss our calls and our texts and on a very regular basis, but I know that we will continue to work very closely together. I have to just say one thing. When I was leaving my presidency, and I'm getting emotional, you all know I get emotional, it's very mixed feelings because you're like, thank God I'm done. But on the other hand, this is such a special place. Michael said it earlier to me, and you just kind of can't walk away. You're not. And, right? And they don't let me. But I'm so happy. I've recently spoken to Michael about this, and it's so nice to hear that he feels the same way. And he seems to be stepping into every little position, committee I'm on, and it's wonderful to see that this is why I think our community thrives, because we have some amazing past presidents. Marla, like Michael said, puts more hours, besides maybe Val, puts more hours into the shul than anyone, and Michael, I know, is going to follow into all of our footsteps because we are just so passionate about our community and all of you sitting here and everybody watching. So thank you all for that. Alana is lucky to have you as her immediate past president, and I know she will lean on you for support. BTBJ has a gift to show you our appreciation for all that you have done for our shul over the last 2 years. With the help of your amazing wife, Mindy, we have ordered you a custom baseball glove. Now, unfortunately, we didn't get to it early enough, so it's still in the making, but I did a mock-up. I should let you open this. Why am I opening it?
And how many committees do you have me on? I don't know.
Oh, I have a list of what you'd agreed to do.
Oh, cool. Oh, you look
So,
very nice.
Mindy had an amazing idea because I think you just made one for Brandon.
That's correct.
So unfortunately, it's not here, like I said, but it is
Very cool.
in the Israeli colors, and on one finger it will say Michael Drosner, and on another finger it will say BTBJ.
Very neat. Very cool.
So,
Thank you.
if you want to show that to anyone. We hope you enjoy this for many years, and we all love you and thank you. That's my son's. You'll have to give that back. But in the meantime, you can hold it. Give me that. I'll put it with me.
Well, thank you very much. I need a new baseball glove because I lost mine, and I'm using iron, so that was a great idea. And it's really awesome to have it personalized. Brandon just ordered one. We're waiting for it to get delivered, and he actually got the Jewish star put on the outside of his glove, which I thought was really awesome that he wanted to do that. All right, next step of the meeting. I can drink now, right? I'm done my speech. So, election of the officers and directors 2022 and 2023. I'm going to read off all of the officers and directors' names, and as I do, I'll ask you to stand. For President, Alana Dunoff. Executive Vice President Beth Schwartzman. Vice President Mark Levy. Vice President Jody Milkman. Vice President Annette Schwartz. Treasurer Shelley Weisbaum. Secretary Jennifer Matisoff. Directors with their term ending next year in 2023 is Robin Walkoff, Matt Schrendeman, Ellen Miller, Mike Searman, Brett Schwartz, Randy Halbert, Amy Wine, and Rich Gersh, and Aaron Sewell, still on the board. Matt Hoffman. Directors ending in 2024 are Matt Hoffman, Marnie Cans, Josh Gale, Emily Rosenfeld, Sarah Ghosh, Rachel Fox, and Ariane Gittleman. I thank you all for being willing to serve this wonderful organization. We look forward to working with you together. Is there a motion in favor of the slate? I see Nancy Center's hand. Is there a second? Is there a second from a board member? Terry Rosen. All those in favor, raise your hand. Everyone standing, raise your hand. That's how this works. Anyone opposed? Nobody's opposed. Congratulations. So I want to take a moment to recognize some of our officers who are rolling off the board. We understand that service to the organization is a commitment. And sometimes in life, people have time for that commitment. Sometimes they have less time. We certainly hope those who are rolling off the board are able to stay engaged in our community, participate in events. But we also want to recognize their service to this board and to our synagogue. So with that, I'll figure out who I have. I'll call up Steve Flax. Steve, thank you. Next, call up Heather Brucker. And next, I call up Terry Rosen. I would just note Steve has served us as a treasurer and on the finance team. Heather has served as an ECC chair and on the membership committee, and Terry was serving on the religious school parent support group. I also recognize, rolling off the board, are Dave Barris and Wendy Kurtz, who couldn't be here, but we'll pass along their wine or we'll drink it for them. Next, I'll call up Rabbi Roney to discharge Men's Club and Sisterhood board members.
Back down again. I want to just thank all of you for the time that you put in to this place. And though you're rolling off, some of you, I'm sure there will still be time put in. So it is extraordinary to know how much time I spend doing this, but it's my job, and how many times I see some of your faces over the course of a week. So I just want to thank you. So first for our discharge. So there is a prayer. It is the Hadran Alach prayer, which is traditionally used to commemorate the completion of a study of a tractate in Talmud. And we say this prayer to acknowledge that the time that we spend with that kind of text is sacred time. Can even be kind of an intimate experience, since we can spend and pour hours of our lives over these Jewish texts, over these long and intense periods of time. And so one of my friends and colleagues, Rabbi Kaminat, who used to teach in our religious school and who actually has enrolled her daughter in our ECC, she'll be coming here next year, she revised this traditional prayer with the intention of applying this prayer to a moment of saying goodbye to a person or to a group of people. So as we discharge our 21-22 officers, President Michael Drosner, Executive Vice President Dave Barrist, Vice President Alana Dunoff, but you're not going far, Vice President Jody Milkman, Vice President Ellen Miller, Treasurer Steve Flax, and Recording Secretary Jen Matisoff. You'll be back soon. As we discharge all of them, along with our Sisterhood Board of Directors and Men's Club, I know you already took care of this, but I will mention you as well as our BTBJ Synagogue Board of Directors. I want to offer all of you from our 21-22 group this prayer. We see before us faces of sacred texts that we cherish and love, sacred texts that are separate from ourselves, yet have become part of who we are. We see sacred texts that hold holiness in their words and their beings, sacred texts that embody our Jewish tradition and our wisdom, holding closely the memory of seeing the sacred text within your faces. Hadran Alechu Kidvei HaKodesh, V'hadartihu alan da'atan alechu, Kitvei HaKodesh, V'da'atchan alan lo nitnashe minachon, Kitvei HaKodesh, V'lo titnashu minan, lo ba'alma hadin, v'lo ba'alma da'ati. We will return to you, and may you return to us. Our mind is on you, and may your mind be on us. We will not forget you, sacred beings, and may you not forget us, not in this world and not in the world to come. Toda rabba l'kulam. You're off the hook. Amen. Okay. So now for the next grouping of folks. So when my friend and colleague, Rabbi Jeremy Schwartz, was president of the Reconstructionist Student Association back in the 90s, he created a blessing to orient the work of their meetings toward holiness and to remind them of the holiness of their work. So many of you know that it has been my practice to start our religious school meetings, our religious school committee meetings, and our faculty meetings with this blessing. And I invite all the rest of us to consider doing the same as we move into our respective committee meetings as well. And so the inspiration for this blessing comes from Talmud Yerushalmi, which says, Rabbi Yirmiyah Amar ha'osek b'tzorchei tzibor ka'osek b'divrei Torah. Rabbi Yirmiyah said, the one occupied with the needs of the community is like one who is occupied with matters of Torah. According to Jewish law, Torah study takes precedent over some other mitzvot. We're able to kind of push those aside if we are engaged in the study of Torah. And in this text from Rabbi Yirmiyah, he is applying the same principle to attending to the needs of the community. So given this connection between Torah study and serving the community, Rabbi Schwartz adapted the blessing that we have, that we say when we are engaging in Torah study, and instead sort of switched out the language so that we're using this language from Talmud Yerushalmi so that we are blessing and making holy our efforts in tending to the needs of the community. So for our 22-23 BTBJ Synagogue officers, I want to ask you to rise as I call your name. To our president, Alana Dunoff. Executive Vice President Beth Schwartzman. Vice President Jody Milkman. Vice President Mark Levy, Vice President Annette Schwartz in Spain, Treasurer Shelley Weisbaum, Recording Secretary Jen Matisoff. See, I said you knew you weren't going far. To our BTBJ Synagogue Board of Directors, if you are in the room, please rise as well. The same for our BTBJ Men's Club, 22, stand. I can say all your names, but there's a lot of them, and you know who you are. 22, 23 Board of Directors. Our Men's Club Board of Directors, I know you were installed the other day, but feel free to rise. And Sisterhood TBD. So as we install you all, and if you are in the room and not standing, and you want to take on Sisterhood, you come talk to us. As we install you all into these new positions, let us take a moment to recognize the holy work that you are about to take on. And as we heard from all of our reports, we know that whether we are dealing with cracking patios outside or planning for the high holidays during a pandemic or otherwise, or installing a new sensory playground out there, which is really exciting to see, and thank you to the Kaganovskis for all of their hard work. This is all holy work. So I want to invite you to repeat after me. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu, b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu, la'asok, b'tzorchei, tzibor. Amen. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the world, who has consecrated us with your mitzvot and commanded us to occupy ourselves with the needs of the community. So as you step into these new roles, I offer you this Tfilat HaDerech, a blessing for your journey. May you all lead us toward peace and make each of your steps be a step toward peace and our path be a path of peace. May you help us continue to create a community of joy and of peace. May we be protected from all enmity and difficulties, we've had enough of those, and from all harm that may confront us on the path. And may we be shielded from any dangerous complications that may arise. May your actions and handiwork be blessed, and may you be granted grace, love, and compassion in the eyes of your community and in the eyes of all who behold us. Blessed are you, Adonai, who hears our prayers. Amen.
Well, that just happened. Well, how did I end up as president of the board of BTBJ? If I go way back into the time machine, it probably started when I was a young girl growing up in Allentown. And just for a moment to acknowledge that Lisa Schwenderman and I grew up in Allentown together. And really looking around all these people who have been not just a part of my life here, but a part of my life even before. But my parents were both actively involved in our small Jewish community, volunteering with Jewish Federation, the Jewish Day School, Jewish Family Service, the Jewish Community Center, Hakol, the Jewish newspaper, Hadassah, and Beth El, our conservative synagogue. When I was about 10, my parents became founding members of Am Haskalah, a Reconstructionist congregation that held services in my basement. I had a Torah and Ark in my basement growing up. And for 40 years, my parents hosted a B'nai B'rith summer institute weekend in our home, inviting Jewish scholars to share their knowledge with others in the community. So clearly, my parents set quite the example for a life of volunteering in the Jewish community. And I am beyond grateful that they are here to share this moment with me today. My mom also reminded me that my grandmother, my dad's mom, was also president of Hadassah and the Sisterhood, so Lador Vador. But that is not the whole story. After my bat mitzvah, I became involved in two of the Jewish youth groups in Allentown, BBYO and JCY. When I was 15 years old, I was elected to my first board position as the treasurer of Ner Tamid BBG in Allentown, and I later became president of JCY. In college, I held a position in the Psychology National Honor Society, and in graduate school, I was the president of my student professional association. And my pages are out of order. Isn't that a shame? Good thing I numbered them. I'm very organized. When I moved here to Philadelphia, I continued to be active in my professional association and served as the chapter president and then as a director on the international board. I've also served on a number of local nonprofit boards, including Cradles to Crayons and Fresh Artists, as well as a number of other professional associations. I clearly have the volunteering gene in my DNA. Apple trees make apples. When Glenn and I joined B2BJ about 17 years ago, I think, we had a new baby daughter. Dahlia started at the preschool, and I, not surprisingly, started running preschool auctions and character hops, and then I was running cooking classes for the religious school and organizing Shabbaton weekends. I have lost count of the number of years I have served on the B2BJ board. Val, please do not tell me. This presidency is the plant of your seed as well. She asked me to attend one little strategic planning meeting, and she knew I would be hooked. About 10 years ago, several BTBJ friends came to me to talk about our need for a stronger Jewish teen program in our community. We had a very small USY chapter in our shul, one that was not attracting any significant participation. The board agreed to entertain the idea of allowing BBYO to expand their regional presence here at B2BJ. We went through a process of meetings and discussions with USY and BBYO leadership to decide on what was the best fit for our community. The board ultimately came to the decision to support BBYO and allow them to use our building for meetings and events. Not everybody was happy with this decision. We even lost a few strong member families over it. But within just a few months, the BBYO chapter that was meeting in our little shul grew to 50 teens, and then it split into a BBG and AZA chapter with over 200 teens, just from our surrounding community. And many of those teens are our sons and our daughters, our children who actively joined BBYO as a way to continue to explore and strengthen their Judaism, to connect with new Jewish friends from around the world, and to develop their skills as future leaders. So I share this story for two reasons. The first is that it's our job as board members of B2BJ to push aside our own personal preferences and agendas in support of the needs of our entire community. This is not always easy, and we have had our share, definitely, of challenges to tackle. But when the collective works together, we can and have done amazing things. In the years that I have served on the board, I have been humbled by our board's ability to listen, to be candid, to be respectful, and to come together to find the best solution and the best decisions for our Hamish Kahila. I am proud of the work that we have done. Our devoted past leadership has created a culture of openness and honesty. I believe all voices are important and need to be heard, and I pledge to continue this spirit of inclusiveness. The second reason for this BBYO story is that when the board made the decision to open its doors to BBYO, I hope that it might be something that our daughters, Dahlia and Sophia, might be interested in joining one day. My years involved with Jewish youth groups was foundational for me, providing me with lifelong friendships, leadership skills, and the desire for connection, belonging, and community. This past Sunday, our daughter Dahlia was elected as the Liberty Region's next Nasiya, president of BBG. And I also just got word that my niece, who lives in New Jersey, was just elected as the president of her chapter. We don't always get to see the impact of the decisions that we make as a board, but this one seems pretty obvious. She has the volunteering gene too. Apple trees make apples. So what that really means is that we have 2 presidents in the Donoff household this coming year. That is a lot of board meetings and a lot of volunteering, and will require a lot of patience and love from the most supportive husband and father. I love you, babe. I know that Sophia will be cheering us on too when she is not dancing, which is where she is tonight. There are a lot of reasons to be excited about the path that lies ahead of us at B2BJ. In the coming weeks and months, I am looking forward to working with the board and the entire community to help us emerge from a pandemic that has kept too many away for far too long. and I am ready to actively support you, Rabbi Roney, as you work to help our community grow and flourish. Years ago, Glenn and I were volunteers with Habitat for Humanity. The construction manager at the time, a man named Matt Galashaw, used to say, "Many hands make for light work." And when it comes to leading a volunteer organization, this quote is always in the back of my mind. How do we get as many people engaged and involved as possible? How do we find big and small opportunities for members to participate, to feel that they are important and that they belong? Our community is built on volunteerism, on people lending a hand and giving of one of their most valuable assets, their time. Thank you for all the countless hours you have all bestowed on B2BJ. It is a precious gift. One of my first priorities is to invite our community to come back, to join a committee, to show up for an event, to help make a minyan, to take an hour to deliver Shabbat bags, to help make lunches for the ECC, or help to plan our next gala. We will take whatever our members are willing to give. And whether it is 1 hour or 100 hours, it will make us stronger and better because we were all doing it together. For those of you who don't know, in my non-volunteer world, I have one of those, I am a strategic facility planner and an adjunct professor. A lot of my professional consulting work centers around helping organizations change, shift, pivot, and rethink how they work and where they work in order to be productive and most efficient. Change can be daunting, but it is also empowering and invigorating. I hope that I can use my professional skills to help usher B2BJ through this exciting time of transition. Thank you to the board and the community for your faith in me as a leader. I love our community in all of its beautiful diversity, and I will do my best to protect her, nourish her, push her to try new things, and encourage her to thrive. We won't be perfect, but we will do our best. And a heads up to all the new board members, June 19th is our next board meeting. Put it on your calendars. We are going to roll up our sleeves, and we are going to get to work. As I wrap up, I want to say another thank you to Michael for his unwavering leadership through a particularly challenging 2 years. I've learned a lot from you, from your leadership style. I cherish our friendship, and I am really grateful you're not going anywhere as past president. Once again, Donoffs follow Drosners. And finally, let's not kid ourselves about who really keeps our little shul that could together. Val, you are tremendous. Thank you. I wish for all of us a year of less chaos, an opportunity to regroup, reconnect, and re-engage, and be together as a community. Onward and upward. Thank you. And so I think I get to call for a motion to close our meeting. Oh, we have toast. We have toast. We have toast or we have toast? We get wine?
Yeah, maybe. My first job as past president is Warren?
Oh, did I have the wrong date? 16, maybe the 16th? Let's go for the 16th.
She wants to have a meeting on Father's Day. That wouldn't have happened under as my presidency. I wouldn't have done that.
Let's go with the 16th. The 16th.
June 16th it is. So raise a glass, to all of you, to our board members, our members, and our congregants for all of your support over the past couple of years and all of our work together in the future, creating a wonderful, warm, caring, and loving Jewish community here at BTBJ, and to Alon and to the board for an excellent 2 years. L'chaim. And now it's back to the president.
So, do I have a motion to close our meeting? I have a first. Do I have a second? We have a second in Warren. Our meeting is adjourned. Come enjoy, come schmooze, come talk, stay, stick around, drink some wine. Thank you.